Before we get into this interview, I want to put a disclaimer out there. I'm not trying to roast anybody. That is not my intention whatsoever. But I feel that there's a lot of people who are confused about what to do. They're suffering from all types of issues, skin issues and inflammatory issues, hormonal issues, autoimmune issues, thyroid issues, gut issues, cancers. And it's very, very important that you guys have a clear understanding of what a dietary measure can do. Learn. And that's the reason why I'm reviewing these guys. I am not trying to roast them, but check it out. What's up, everyone? Welcome to my very humble channel. Now let's go right on to this subject. And I'm not trying to beat a dead cat, horse into the ground, but this is part 3 of the Dr. Shafee, Paul Saladino softball, ball debate. And Paul's going into fructose. Now, respectfully, I've always found Paul to be quite intelligent, very intelligent, in fact. But I think maybe sometimes he's jumped into things too quickly and promoted things too hard before learning more. He added fruit back into his diet, and I believe he mentioned something about workout performances and electrolyte issues. Now, I've done keto for a very long time. Let's just say I've done it 16 years. And I've made a lot of mistakes, and I've learned from my mistakes. And because he rushed so quickly into this and became a guru so fast, I think he wasn't able to sort of figure out and iron out the issues like I was over time. So let's go into the video and listen to his discussion about fructose, because this is very interesting.
You bring up the sugar thing. Let's get into sugar a little bit now. I don't want to spend too much time here, but it is interesting that sort of there's been this war between processed sugar, and I'm saying that intentionally, and fat for a long time. And when I wrote the carnivore code, I looked at
You wrote it too quickly. No disrespect, but yeah.
Literature that said that fructose was harmful for humans. And I thought, okay, sugar is bad for humans because sugar is sucrose, and sucrose is a disaccharide, and that contains glucose and fructose, and that looks to be bad for humans. I mean, there's a pretty decent amount of evidence in humans that fructose in the form of processed sugars or high fructose corn syrup doesn't look to be great for us. Now, for me, it was a pretty interesting and eye-opening experience to have issues on a carnivore diet myself that were related to long-term ketosis and electrolyte issues.
Okay, I'm sorry, but you're not being honest. You weren't in ketosis. He's making up stuff like we did the last 3 years of what happened to this planet and this country. Long-term ketosis, it's almost like long-term rhymes with Slovid. Come on. Long-term ketosis. Dude. I mean, you're not promoting high fat. When I first did carnivore, I did it for almost a year, but I always knew it had to be a high fat, ketogenic based dietary strategy, but people were doing high protein. So there was no long-term ketosis. Y'all out there don't think he was in ketosis.
And then add sugar containing foods into my diet, fruit and honey, which I would call whole food sources of sugar. And to see my labs improve in many ways, my fasting insulin stayed low, my fasting blood sugar went.
That's how I know he was not in ketosis, because once he started adding in sugar, now his markers improved. So that shows that he was not in ketosis. He was not eating enough fat. He was not eating enough carbs, and you cannot get your energy from protein. So everything tanked, and he started feeling better when he added back in carbs.
Went down, my A1C went down, my muscle cramps went away, my testosterone went up, my sleep got.
Okay, he is not telling us And I think I reviewed him saying this before, but he did not tell us the numbers, not the A1C, not just nothing, just saying these things.
Better. And at the same time, I was kind of looking at the research, and I didn't really believe the research when I first saw it because it sounds kind of hand wavy, or it sounds like voodoo. But I think that there's something, my perspective, and you may disagree with me on this. And
he's saying that the research sounds like voodoo. I mean, he's a smart guy. So maybe there was some inconsistencies in the literature that he read, but he's trying to make it fit.
We can talk about it. When I look at the research on fruit, and there's an interesting amount of research on fruit and even fruit juice in humans, they appear to be unequivocally beneficial. I know that even the likes of Robert Lustig have argued that fruit may not be bad for humans because it contains fiber.
Are you guys hearing he's not saying how fruit is good? He said it might be beneficial. How is it beneficial? You are so smart. Break it down. I'll wait.
And that may mitigate some of the absorption of fructose. But when I go further, and I just released a couple of weeks ago a podcast on fruit juice. And so I looked at all the research I could find on fruit juice, watermelon juice, pomegranate juice, cherry juice, grape juice, orange juice. All of these have minuscule amounts of fiber, and they seem to be pretty beneficial for humans without.
He said they seem to be pretty beneficial to humans based on some stupid study, which I hate these studies because they're very subjective. They seem to be, and you can't give out advice when things seem to be pretty interesting or pretty beneficial.
Comes that show decreased oxidized LDL in vitro, which is really the only way to study oxidation of LDL.
And he's reading this stuff right now. Some of it he's reading.
Improved endothelial function, decreased products of oxidation in humans, decreased inflammatory markers, certain prostaglandins. The list kind of goes on and on. I was kind of wide-eyed thinking okay, even fruit juice looks to be beneficial to humans in so many ways.
Even fruit juice seems to be beneficial in some ways. Do you guys not hear there's no science? There is no science, my people. I find Paul very, very inspirational. I think he's very intelligent, but some of the stuff, not all of it, but some of the stuff that he gets wrong, in my opinion, is I just feel like if you're going to promote stuff, didn't say, keep it consistent. Like, hey, you guys, fruit might make your candida explode. Hey, you guys, fruit might make your histamine explode. Hey, you guys, fruit might make you develop a severe hypoglycemia and food binging responses. Yeah, or might make your blood sugar skyrocket. If you were to do that, I think I would be more inclined to be like, well, at least he's keeping it real that this, as he says, works for him. But you kind of wonder when he pushed carnivore so much that it was the best diet ever. He was on the doctor's show. I mean, he literally pushed it. Was he being dishonest then? Was his electrolytes tanking then? Was he dehydrated then? Was his exercising going through low performance then? But he just was pushing meat. And now he's pushing fruit. And are there more things going on? But he's not saying it, because once you say something, you got to stick to it. I don't know. But something don't sound balanced. And I'm not trying to pick on him. I'm not, you guys. Paul, I'm not trying to roast you. I'm really not. I just get a lot of people listening to this advice who develop severe, horrible symptoms from somebody saying, seems like maybe this could possibly somehow be beneficial, instead of conclusively being beneficial.
And I'm happy to share the studies. I think we can put the studies on the screen and the YouTube corroborating all of that. I mean, I'll say this, and then I'll be curious for your response. Watermelon juice is so interesting to me specifically because there are multiple studies in which they give people glucose. So they'll do.
This is driving me nuts because watermelons are so genetically modified. It's not what grows in nature. It just irritates me. And fructose goes to the liver. A lot of people who are already struggling with high ALT and AST liver enzymes, and then they eat this freaking watermelon juice, and then they're having more issues with their liver. He's not mentioning these things, and I really don't know why. Plus the hypoglycemia and the freaking candida, and God knows what else comes with adding a bunch of genetically modified watermelon to your diet.
Do an oral glucose tolerance test, an OGTT, and they'll infuse glucose and make people hyperglycemic, essentially with a quote unquote processed sugar. And you see micro and macrovascular dysfunction of the endothelium when you do that. But when you give people watermelon juice along with an OGTT, it attenuates all of the negative effects of the OGTT.
It attenuates the negative effects of the OTT. That's a bunch of sciencey words. Dude, get to the point, because the audience does not know what you mean. And did you become very sciencey right there because you really don't have the answer? I don't know. I think so. But yeah.
At the level of the endothelium. So it's really interesting that, like, I mean, I think you could even make an argument that fruit juice is even like an antidote to processed sugar. I don't think processed sugar is good.
How is it an antidote? Like, he's not explaining how genetically modified watermelon juice, my people, is an antidote to sugar
for humans. But I wonder, I mean, do you think it's possible that we are conflating research with processed sugar and high fructose corn syrup with fruit, and saying that fruit or fruit juice is bad for humans based on research done with processed sugars, which don't really behave the same way in the human body?
Okay, but that's not the situation. He's saying, like, in comparison to the standard American diet of, like, you know, fructose put in everything that you consume. Of course, fructose, concentrated chemicalized fructose, and the standard American diet of packaged foods, or even the orange juice, whatever, is bad for you. Concentrated fructose having to go to the liver and just messing with your blood sugar, and plus all the preservatives and chemicals involved in the Roundup that's involved in the growing of that plant. But of course it's going to do better. Of course anything naturally grown is going to be better than something you'd go buy at the dollar store. But let's talk about what happens to people who are actually doing carnivore because they have psoriasis and eczema and inflammation and joint pain and liver problems and kidney problems and diabetes and high blood sugar and candida overgrowth and parasitical overgrowth. And then you go and you have hypoglycemia, and then you add in fruit that's been genetically modified to have way more fructose than it would in nature. I just wonder why you're not talking about that, mister.
Body? Or do you think I'm off base with that premise?
No, look, no, I
Okay, here comes the ball slicking. I mean, I don't got nothing against Chafee, but dude, he's Mr. You can get everything from meat. This is not a debate. This is a collaboration to get more followers, but I'm looking for what he really thinks, because he's done this look up to the corner, and I feel that I feel that at least Paul, I think that Paul is being a little bit more earnest. I think he wants it to be that fruit. I think he's addicted to the sugar. I think he wants to add fruit because he thinks it has less histamine, which is absolutely absurd, because I know so many people have got fructose intolerance, but meaning they have an allergic reaction, sensitivity to fruit and fructose. But we're going to listen to Mr. I'm totally meat, and you don't even need to get your electrolytes in extra. You can just get it from meat, and he's going to tell us the truth. Let's hear.
I think that I'm sort of somewhere in the middle. You know, I do agree with you that is.
No. On your channel, you do not say you're in the middle, nor do you eat in the middle. So you claim. You are all about getting everything from meat, and a lot of meat. So why is he saying he's in the middle? Ball slicker.
Is certainly different than processed sugar and straight sugar on its own, 100%, and high fructose corn syrup and sucrose and all that sort of stuff. Um, I think that there are certainly added benefits to even fruit juice. I think the fiber, as Lustig said, probably does confer a benefit. As he speaks about in his book Metabolical, eating.
I just feel like he's more dishonest than Paul, because Paul at least wants to believe in what he's saying, and he tries to do his own research to fit his narrative, looking for, like he said himself, I'm trying to look for studies that go along with what I'm trying to do, and that he feels that he's getting benefits. But is he telling us the whole truth? We would never know. But this dude ain't being honest at all.
Soluble and insoluble fibers sort of make a bit of a lattice structure, and that blocks about 30% of the absorption in your intestine. So if you're eating things that aren't really good for you, I think fiber is a great idea, but if you're not eating things that aren't good for you, then you probably don't want that, because that's going to cause malabsorption. So that can be.
I'm sorry, what is going to be causing malabsorption? What? Say, wait, what? Oh boy. Let's continue.
Benefit if you're and that's some of the things too. Some of the studies looking at fiber being of benefit, they talk about how this stabilizes blood sugar. I'm like, well, if you're absorbing 30% less sugar, then obviously your blood sugar is going to be improved, and from that standpoint. As far as fruit is concerned, I was talking to Dr. Gary Fettke about this actually, and he was saying that there was actually a lot of things in fruit, vitamin C and other sorts of vitamins and minerals, which actually mitigate the effects of fructose in the body. And he's very much against fructose in general. He's very, very against sugar. But he says himself that when he's looked into the literature and he's looked into things, that there absolutely are things in.
Does that make sense that this doctor is against fructose 100%, he says, but then he's saying there are some properties that fiber might mitigate the glucose spike, and there are some vitamin C, which you can obviously get in meat and definitely in organ meats and definitely in liver, which would fit more to his narrative of being all meat. But then he's sort of saying, what are you saying?
Fruits that mitigate that effect of fructose. So I definitely agree with that. The one thing is, though, is, sometimes, with studies on juice or whatever, I always sort of wonder, okay, are they adding juice into, processed food diet, or how are they managing that? Is that conferring a benefit to people that are eating, largely a junk diet? Is that are you going to see the same benefits on?
Okay, I'm going to stop cutting him off because I'm just getting tired of this. He is not addressing what Paul said. Paul is talking about eating an animal-based diet and adding natural fruit into your diet, not going down the diatribe of processed fructose.
Someone like you or I who are eating quite a lot of meat, is that going to give the same benefit? So seeing if that's translatable to our populations. There have been studies in mice done by Coca-Cola that show that, oh, well, sucrose and natural cane sugar is actually really good for you, and you lose weight if you're giving these mice a whole bunch of Coca-Cola. And it's just like, okay, I'm going to have problems with with a Coca-Cola doing a study saying that Coca-Cola is beneficial for weight loss. So that could be something too, depending on who's doing the study for fruit. The main thing that I have of issue with fructose is I've seen a lot of Lustig's work as well, and I've found it to be pretty compelling. And then like you say, if you find that you're having benefit in your life and you're eating a certain way, I think that people should definitely do that.
Okay, he's playing both sides of the coin. He's saying, like, you should do it if you think it's good for you, but then he said he's taking issue. I don't understand. How can you say that in like one breath?
If you found that you've improved in a lot of ways, you should definitely do that. I haven't had those same issues. I haven't found that I actually just did a set of bloods sort of coming up on 6 years. And
okay, so here goes into, I think, part 2 that I went through. The problem isn't like what he's saying necessarily all in this debate, softball licking debate. This is what he says on his own channel, being staunchly against plants and pro meat. And he's looking in the corner over there. he's not connecting with Paul. Paul, in his sort of way to communicate, is trying to connect with him. And then Mr. Chafee is not trying to connect back. I don't have anything against these dudes. I'm not gunning for them. I try to research beyond my clients. I've got a lot of clients, but sometimes it's good to go and see what other, actually, I hate this part, but I hate to see what their other people are saying. I'd really like to see what just real people are saying, and to also reference that these guys don't know. They're both doctors. They're both MDs. He's looking off in the corner trying to think of something. They both don't know. And that is the point. Let me get back over here. The point of me doing these videos is not to roast these men. I don't even know them. But I get a lot of people who either take their advice or are coached by them who have issues. And they come to me like, fix my issues. And then it makes me take pause and actually go and listen to something between the both of them. And I realize they don't know. Be careful, you guys. You have to do your own due diligence. You have to do your own research. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to anyone. If you do listen, take out something that doesn't make any sense to you, which people do on my channel all the time, and put it to the test. Put things to the test in your mind. Research more, or try things yourself and see how things work for you. But nothing is just because a guru says it is. Because as you can see in this interview, they're very much softballing each other. And as far as the fruit goes, I think I'm going to show one more person who's talking about fruit. So let's see what he says. But he's not in this debate. All right, guys, we've got Ben Beekman. He's someone I have a little bit more respect for. I don't always agree with his ideology on keto because I don't think he studied it enough. I don't think he puts a lot of effort into ketones and working with people, but I really do respect a lot of his research. But let's hear what he says about fructose.
Wall are very tight together, allowing nothing through. However, when they become more permeable, there are some gaps, and now some dirty stuff is able to move from the intestines and get into the bloodstream, activating inflammation and other problems. Fructose is one of the most prevalent exacerbators or harms when it comes to intestinal permeability. This is something that has been reviewed and published quite extensively. But suffice to say, the overall process is fructose consumption results in increased gut permeability, and then you have more inflammatory molecules moving from the intestine into the blood, exacerbating inflammation and potentially autoimmune disorders. So to control inflammation, one thing you could do is to control fructose consumption. You, of course, have heard about leaky gut. Leaky gut is a real thing. And this is something that happens when the permeability of the intestines becomes compromised. Normally, the cells of the intestinal wall are very tight together, allowing nothing through. However, when they become more permeable, there are some gaps, and now some dirty stuff is able to move from the intestines and get into the bloodstream, activating inflammation and other problems. Fructose is one of the most prevalent exacerbators or harms when it comes to intestinal permeability. This is something that has been reviewed.
Okay, Ben said fructose. He did not say processed fructose in the standard American diet. He didn't say fructose in fruit because, believe it or not, fructose is in fruit. He just said fruit. He just said fructose, rather. He did not distinguish between fructose in products and fructose in fruit, but they are both fructose, which is why I believe Paul tried to bring up watermelon having a less glycemic response in terms of the fructose. But I will tell you this. I've worked with a lot of clients over the years, and one woman in particular, her mother had just died from non-alcoholic fatty liver disease from the fructose in her fibrous fruit. And even though fiber mitigates how the blood sugar responds to the body, high fruit for many years as a fruitarian not only killed her, high fructose not only made her lose her life, but not only did fructose from eating fruit take her own life, but she developed fatty liver disease. Be careful. Just do your own research. All right, guys, if you want to learn more, go to stephanieperson.com. If you need help, I'm your girl. I'm going to keep it real. I'll keep it respectful and kind. Go to stephanieperson.com to book a consultation. Get ready for my challenge. I was trying to get things signed up by the end of September, but 1000% it will be the month of October. I need to create challenges, and that is now the last puzzle piece, and then get it on my website. So I'm excited. Signups will be, I will present them when, how, soon. And I'm getting a house built going, so I'm excited. My Instagram is Stephanie Ketogenic. My Facebook fan page is Stephanie the Business Person. Yes. My website is stephanieperson.com. You guys tell me if you eat fruit. Were you a fruitarian? Were you a vegan? Are you doing carnivore with fruit? Are you adding all that sugar in this source of honey? Which that's a whole nother subject, that most honey in the store is not all honey. They mix a bunch of other junk in it, like fructose and oils. But I digress. Yeah. Be careful, my people. Be careful. Energy. Peace.